and let us all do we can to build a better future.
We got a story, another story. It won't go away.
It's endless.
About Cuomo and how he is, trying to make sure that everything goes his way at the cost of everyone else around him while pretending that he's this great family man. And also, I want to give a shout out to the Democratic Party, CNN, NBC, great judge of character, making this guy the guy that you think should oppose Trump. You know, you're like, I don't want that guy. He's, he says bad things and touches women inappropriately and just isn't good moral character for this country. I'm going to pick this guy. He also touches women, says things he shouldn't, and is not a good judge of moral character. We have another story. If you guys remember way back when Me Too and Time's Up were, relevant movements that had some air of authentic nature, even though they really only, for the most part, helped wealthy women get much wealthier and didn't really help any middle management woman in this country exist in any way, and in a lot of cases, especially with Time's Up, stopped people from speaking out. Well, we have an interesting conflagration of all of these things happening together. So, guess what, guys? Time's Up Chairwoman has just resigned to focus on defending Andrew Cuomo and continue discrediting his victims. An interesting point. So if you guys were wondering, hey, Time's Up, why are you so terrible? Why weren't you helping when people were speaking out against Biden? It's because the person in charge of it is the lawyer for Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, they're the ones who abandoned Tara Reid when the allegations came forward about. But you know what? They were all over the place when allegations were against Trump. Mm-hmm. Rightful allegations against Trump. We're not condoning one of the or dismissing one or the other. But there's no There's never any consistency.
It's all hypocrisy.
Depending on the R or the D behind the name.
Yeah, it's these are two people yelling at a diabetic saying, "Drink Coke, drink Pepsi." Both sugar drinks. Anyway, the prominent U.S. attorney and chairwoman of Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, Roberta Kaplan, has resigned from the organization amid criticisms of her ties to Governor Andrew Cuomo and her alleged efforts to discredit one of his accusers. I'm going to say it on Hardlands Media. It's like it's to such a degree. The fact that they wrote alleged is just it's not needed. It's an event that happened that there is. Anyway, I'm just trying to make sure that the news is keeping in touch with itself. Kaplan, who co-founded the Legal Defense Fund in the wake of the Me Too movement, ironic, submitted her resignation on Monday, saying her work as a practicing lawyer conflicted with her responsibilities as a chairwoman. Ironic and also interesting that it only now is it an issue. The New York Times reported, hey, you know the New York Times is always there to report something at the last minute after it really doesn't matter. And then say war is good. Anyway, as a result, I cannot offer a degree of transparency about my firm's matters now being demanded, i.e. shut up, since that would be contrary to my responsibilities as a lawyer, which, again, didn't bring up until the public started calling you out on it when there was already an issue with this before everyone called you out on it, or before people you found relevant, I suppose. Therefore, I have the reluctancy to come to the conclusion that an active law practice is no longer capable. By the way, she's not even any responsibility. That's not my law practice. An active, just a somewhere in the ether, if they are active and they're a law practice, is no longer compatible with serving on the board of Time's Up at this time. So she's being very gracious and saying, I'm actually not going to speak for myself. No law firm's able to replace me. I declare it. And I hereby resign, she wrote. The progressive attorney, I love that. Look at that little.
I wonder if the firm felt like good riddance to you.
Yeah. Well, no, she's still at the firm.
I mean, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. Well, the firm is probably like, man, we can't control politically the way that we used to and gatekeep. Damn. I love that they call her a progressive attorney when everything that I just read says contrary. She's like, oh, it's progressive attorney, not in quotations, but alleged efforts up there. Interesting. Who was this again that wrote this? Thank you, New York Post. That was very interesting. So she was, I'm just going to call her the attorney, was referenced in the Attorney General Lolita James Damning report released last week, which we covered, that the accused Cuomo was sexually harassing 11 women. Her law firm also represented Cuomo's top aide, Melissa De Rosa, during the investigation. The investigators found that Kaplan had reviewed a draft op-ed letter that attacked Lindsay Boyland, who was the first woman to publicly accuse Cuomo of sexual harassment. So I'm going to go back to this first page again and just read these two together to help them with their own consistency. Amid criticisms of her ties to Andrew Cuomo and her alleged efforts to discredit one of the accusers, later in the article, investigators found that Kaplan had reviewed a draft co-ed op-ed letter that accused Lindsey Boylan. So it seems like they're very much admitting that this is a very established fact, which is what we said earlier, but they can't say it in their intro. Anyway, the investigators say DeRosa, who resigned on Sunday, led the efforts to try and discredit Boylan. Kaplan noted in her resignation letter that the severity of the Attorney General's findings, quote, unfortunately, recent events have made it clear that even our apparent allies, and these are the people in Time's Up, in their fight to advance women can turn out to be abusers, which again is like, she's been there for a while. She sort of co-founded the organization. The fact that you just noticed right now says a lot. Her resignation came as a group of sexual harassment survivors wrote an open letter to the Time's Up board on Monday, accusing the organization of failing the survivor community. Fair. The letter said the survivors were dismayed to see Kaplan's name mentioned in the Attorney General's report and accused the attorney of helping, quote, Cuomo and his office retaliate against at least one of nearly a dozen women who were courageous in speaking up about the myriad ways he abused his power and violated their bodies in the workplace. Time's Up has abandoned the very people it was supposed to champion. I think I would argue at least that it was never really there in the beginning for that. And while it was political organization still was co-founded by this person, and we've done so many stories on this issue exactly like that. So the board continues to fail to heed the outcry from the survivors. Time's Up is failing all survivors. So here we go. Literally, the woman in charge of Time's Up is the same person who represents Cuomo and disparaged victims for coming out. Isn't that interesting? That's the Democratic Party, I think, in a nutshell. I think if this was a dish, this would be them on a plate. It's this hypocrisy of, oh, we're here for women, but only women we agree with that have political reasons that we want to help get their point out there. Then we're going to help them. And if we help all women except ones that we don't politically agree with, whose message might go against that of the Democratic Party. These are the people that are in charge of the organizations that call people out. The targeted hit squad of a group that hasn't affected the lives of regular women in America. Working class women have not been helped by Me Too, have not been helped by Time's Up. It's million women, mainly in Hollywood, it seems, or politically connected, that make millions of dollars, who are helped and promoted by Me Too and Time's Up, who are, again, in Me Too and Time's Up case, run by a woman who is taking the time off from that group because protecting Andrew Cuomo is more important to her. This is the group of people that are claiming to support women's rights.
This is pack and parcel for the Democratic Party, though. They claim that they're all about protecting women, and then they stab them in the back. They claim that they're all about taking care of workers with increasing a minimum wage. They stab us in the back. They run on public option, or they're all for Medicare for all, and they stab us in the back. I mean, this is their playbook with everything. And now in this particular situation, I don't know what organizations are left to represent and protect women who are stepping forward.
I would argue never really has been one. I mean, there have been in the past, but there's been, just like everything in America, there's been this illusion of organizations helping women. And Kit's going to get annoyed that I'm not here and I'm saying this, so I have to do a 40K reference on just the Democrat and Republican Party that perfectly sums up. There's these two gods of these two fungus creatures. And one is the god of stabbing things in the face.
Right.
And the other is the god of waiting till your opponent's back is turned and then stabbing it in the back.
That's our two-party system.
That's our two-party system.
Pretty much.
So yeah, I mean it's
and that there's no shame whatsoever in what she's doing.
She's not even that. It's like no lawyer organization could do this. I'm saying this for myself, the person who co-founded the group and ran it. And if there wasn't public outcry, would still be running. And let's be clear on this: that if no one had called her out on this, if they had not called out the board, which is like barely doing anything, because again, to have like, I don't know, it's like. It's like a group of people who are, I don't know, it's like, I have to think of a terrible example. Is it just a terrible example that we're in right now in reality? So I have to think of an equally terrible. It's like the Flat Earth Society being like, I had no idea Neil deGrasse Tyson thought the world was round. He should get off our board. We had no idea. You guys knew. You guys didn't mind. You're not stupid. I know these people are not stupid. I wouldn't ever call them that. But they are just bad people who are happy to take the services of people that defended abusers of women just until it became public.